Hey guys! So, one of the suggestions on my thank you for 500 subscribers video was that I film a video telling you my top 10 favorite books of all time. And it was kind of hard to narrow down the list, but I'm pretty happy with what I've come up with. And these are in order from 10 to 1, so let's just get started. I feel like this deserves to be said. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows is probably my favorite book of all time. But I'm assuming in the majority of videos filmed like this, Harry Potter is always mentioned in some way or another. So I kept it off of this list just to make room for an extra title that maybe you guys hadn't heard of before. But don't worry, Harry Potter is probably my favorite book series of all time. And the reason it's not included is I wanted to make room for something else. Yeah, so little disclaimer there. So number 10 might be a little bit obvious, and it is Twilight by Stephenie Meyer. I read this book in middle school, and this is kind of what opened my world up to reading more. It was a very amazing experience I had with Twilight and reading the books. I know a lot of people despise Twilight, and looking back, yeah, I can tell you that the story is not as well written as I originally thought. The characters are not as dynamic as I thought when I first read it, but this story will always hold a special place in my heart. I have reread it probably 3 or 4 times. Just Twilight. I can't read the other books because Jacob is in them too much, and that's a whole different thing though, but I couldn't make a favorites video without talking about Twilight, because Twilight is really kind of what got me started reading in the first place, and I will always be grateful for that. Number 9 is a book I don't think I've talked a lot about on this channel, but I read it maybe 5 or 6 years ago at this point. I can't really remember when, but it is The Runaway Princess by Hester Brown. This is an adult contemporary, and the only one I think I've read of its kind. It's about this girl named Amy whose boyfriend is a prince. He's actually the 9th most eligible royal bachelor in the world, and it's about her trying to make sense of all of the media hype around her being a prince's girlfriend, and if that's really what she even wants for herself, while also going towards her own goals and becoming someone that she truly loves and appreciates. Like, it's a very good coming of age and self-love book. I think it is fabulous, and if you are into contemporaries but you haven't given adult ones a try, I would recommend this one. It's not super long. It's about a little over 400 pages, and I loved this book so much, and I can't recommend it enough. Keeping with the trends of contemporaries, my number 8 on this list is This Is What Happy Looks Like by Jennifer E. Smith. I read this book maybe 2 years ago, but whenever I think of a Jennifer E. Smith book, this is the one that comes into my head. I've read 2 others, A Statistical Probability of Love at First Sight and The Geography of You and Me. Both are really sweet, really cute contemporary reads, but This Is What Happy Looks Like remains my favorite. It's about this small town girl who gets an email accidentally from a celebrity, only she doesn't realize he is a celebrity. And they become email correspondents, and they just keep messaging each other back and forth, and one day she casually mentions where she is, and he happens to be on the lookout for a new filming location for a movie he's starring in, and he recommends her town so he can go and meet her. And it's a really sweet, really cute story, very summery, good for this time of year, and if you haven't picked it up, I would recommend this one. Number 7 is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. This is an adult historical fiction romance novel, and it's amazing. I want to say that first. It's a great, great story. It follows a combat nurse from World War II as she is she's transported back in time to like the Scottish Rebellion from the English Empire in the 1700s. I can't remember the exact date. I think it's like maybe 1743. I was gonna say 42, so that's a pretty good guess for me. But it's a really, really great story. The romance is wonderful. The characters are so real and so lifelike, and the reason why it's lower on my list, even though I really did enjoy this book, is I haven't read the others in the series. I own 3 of them, and I haven't read them, and at this point in time I'm not sure when I'm going to get to them if I ever am. So I didn't want to put this super high up on my list, but it definitely deserved a spot because it's absolutely amazing. There's also a TV show of it on Starz. I think they're in their second season right now. I haven't been watching because I haven't read the second book, but the first season was absolutely wonderful. Very, very true adaptation, and I would recommend that you check that out. Number 6, we have the first book I read this year, and that is Uprooted by Naomi Novik. This is a standalone YA fantasy, which we really don't see a lot of, and that was part of the appeal for me as to why I picked it up, but it is a magnificent story. I gushed about this a lot at the beginning of the year. I have a really long book review for it too. I'm just going to read you a bit of, like a little tiny bit of the dust jacket, because that's what sold me on this book, so hopefully it'll do the same for you. Our dragon doesn't eat the girls he takes, no matter what stories they tell outside our valley. We hear them sometimes, from travelers passing through. They talk as though we're doing human sacrifice and he were a real dragon. Of course, that's not true. He may be a wizard and immortal, but he's still a man, and our fathers would band together and kill him if he wanted to eat one of us every 10 years. He protects us from the wood, and we're grateful, but we're not that grateful. It's a fantastic, fantastic story. The UK cover is beautiful. You can find it on Book Depository. Like, the American cover is nice as well, but trust me, the UK cover is prettier, and I wish I had that one. But it's a great story, and I would really recommend it if you are in the mood for a standalone fantasy. Number 5, we have another contemporary, and that is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I read this book at the best time in my life for it. I read it right before going to college for my freshman year, and it was the best time for me to read it. I think I was nearing the end of my senior year of high school, and I really, really identified with the main character, Kath. She has a little bit of social anxiety, and she's going to a new school, and her twin sister, Ren, decides she doesn't want to be roommates with her. So Kath has to go find new friends. She has a random roommate. She's trying to work through different family troubles that pop up throughout the book, and she's also writing fan fiction for her favorite book series, Simon Snow, which is their version of Harry Potter, which I do write fan fiction for Harry Potter, just gonna admit that. So I read this at a great time in my life, and it's a hilarious book, very cute, very summery. I would really recommend you read it if you haven't. It's been out for a while, so you probably have, but it's a great, great story, and honestly, I'm thinking about giving it a reread. Number 4, we have Inkheart by Cornelia Funke. This book is certainly well loved. Spine is cracked within an inch of its life. It is not quite falling apart yet, but let's be real, in a couple years it might be at that point. I really should invest in a hardcover copy. And this book is amazing. If you watch my video stories, I will read to my children. This is on there, but it's definitely something you can enjoy as a teenager, a young adult. If you just enjoy reading and books that promote a love of reading and a love of book buying and just a love of literature, I think you'll really enjoy this. This story, if you don't know what it's about, follows a girl named Maggie and her father, Mo. And Mo has this rare ability, gift, curse, however you want to define it, where if he reads aloud, he can bring something from the book to our world. He can't control it though, so he could read a book and a butterfly could come out. He could read a book and the book's villain could come out. Here's the catch. Every time something comes out of the book world, something else from our world has to go in. And it is a wonderful, wonderful story. It has one of my all-time favorite literature characters, Dustfinger, in it, and I would recommend this to anyone and everyone. It's amazing. And the movie, a lot of people didn't like. I enjoy it because I like Brendan Fraser, so if you're interested in watching the movie, I would give it a watch. I think it's decent. It's pretty good for a book adaptation, but please, please read the book. So, number 3, I decided to limit myself to only one Cassandra Clare book because I figured that was fair. And this book definitely earned its spot on this chart. The other ones came close to it, but not quite, and that is Clockwork Princess, the third book in the Infernal Devices trilogy. This is by far, I think, my favorite Cassandra Clare book I've ever read, and I've read all of them with the exception of Lady Midnight. I'll get to it at some point. I have to be in the mood, and I'm not quite there yet, but I'm getting there. I'm slowly going through my Magnus Bane withdrawals, so once I start, like, really hitting that, I'll pick that one up. But Clockwork Princess was absolutely amazing, and if you are new to the Mortal Instruments world, if you're new to Cassandra Clare's writing, I would really recommend you read the Infernal Devices first. I think this trilogy is better than the 6-book series. Don't get me wrong, the 6-book series is amazing, and you should definitely read it if you haven't. But if you're looking for somewhere to start, I would say Infernal Devices, because Clockwork Princess was hands down my favorite book I've read thus far by Cassandra Clare. Alright, so book 2 is a genre I have not mentioned at all throughout this entire list, but this book means a lot to me. I have studied it 3 separate times, maybe 4. I can't remember how many times I have read this book for school, and just how important and wonderful it is to me, and that is John Milton's Paradise Lost. I adore this book, and I have annotated it within an inch of its life. It is absolutely amazing. It is hands down my absolute favorite classic. If you haven't read it, I really think you should. This is one of, in my opinion, the epitome of all classics out there. And basically what it is, it's an epic. It basically is talking about the fall of humankind. It opens with Satan being in hell, and you follow him on his journey to try to enter the Garden of Eden to tempt Adam and Eve and make them fall and make them sin, and you see Lucifer, or Satan rather, when he was in heaven and then when he fell, and just all of the different... It's a retelling of the book of Genesis, I guess, and I am not a religious individual by any means, but this book really means a lot to me. If you're the tiniest bit interested in religious themes or religious stories, I would really recommend that you give this a read. It can be a little tough to get through. I personally read it for the first time in a school setting where we were studying it, so I had maybe an easier time to understand and analyze it than if you were to just pick it up, but it is by no means impossible, and it's a great story, and I've talked about it long enough. Let's move on now. Alright, this is it. Numero uno. My favorite book of all time, and I will be honest, I cheated. I couldn't pick one. I tried to limit myself to one, and the problem with that is I could limit myself to just one Harry Potter book that I loved, Deathly Hallows. I could limit myself to one Cassandra Clare book, Clockwork Princess. But when it comes to Miss Sarah J. Maas, I couldn't pick one. And so I'm stuck with this, Queen of Shadows and A Court of Mist and Fury. Both of these books are fabulous. I love them. We have the 4th book in the Throne of Glass series, a YA fantasy series, and we have the 2nd book in the Court of Thorns and Roses trilogy, a new adult YA, whatever that category is, fantasy trilogy. And it's, I cannot pick between the two. I love them both so much. Both of these series mean a lot to me, and asking me to pick between the two is like asking me to pick, it's like asking a mother to pick her favorite child. I can't. I love them both way too much, and maybe when both series have finished, it'll be easier for me to pick a winner between the two, but since I'm in the middle of both of them, I cannot pick, and so I don't care if that's cheating. My favorite book is, it's two of them. It's probably cheating, but you know what? Whatever. This is my video. So this is the one time I did it, okay? There was like 5 different books that I could have tied on this list and I didn't, so give me this one, please. Alright, so yeah, those are my top 10 favorite books of all time. It was really hard to narrow this list down to 10, and as I was filming and as I was compiling that list, there were different books popping out at me that I love and cherish, but just didn't quite make it onto this list. I just have a lot of love to give and a lot of books in which I have given that love to, so only picking 10 felt unfair. So believe me, there are loads more books that I would include in like my favorites category that just didn't make the cut for this video, but believe me, if I do another top 10, some variation of it, those books will be mentioned. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you're having a great day, and you should leave a comment of some of your top favorite books so I can maybe expand my wish list and be exposed to other wonderful books. Yeah, so I will see you guys in another video. Bye!